It's from the Latin Hammer of the Witches. It was published in 1487. And it a form of literature that incited people to fear witches and try them as criminals. So that's one to look up if you're interested. Let me write it down because I'm not pronouncing it. Malleus. If I could spell it, would be good. Let's see. I'll write it in here so you can look it up if you want to check it out. I think Maleficent was taken from this. Stupid thing. M-A-L-E-F. Okay, that's good. This is the name of the book that you can look up. It was published in 1487. Of course, it was written by a name written by a man, of course. Yes, that's what they're saying. That's what a witch is. But this book was written by a man, of course, Heinrich Kramer, who at the time, he was an inquisitor for the Catholic Church. So there you go. And his work is not the first of its kind. It encouraged the belief of witches being evil and nearly always female, and gave a list of different forms of witchcraft, which basically meant anything that wasn't Christian. So there you go. And most horrendous of all, urged anyone reading it to grab up a torch and hunt down a witch. So there you go. Why they would even, I can't believe that they would even publish something like that back then, but they did. And it told them and encouraged them to basically get out and hunt down a witch. So, and it worked, obviously, or we wouldn't have had the witch trials. Ridiculous tests were given, women being tied with a stone and thrown in the river. If she came back up, she was a witch. Well, guess what? I'll bet you most of them didn't, okay? Tying you with a stone and throwing you in the river, okay. If she was a witch, and she was killed on the spot anyway. If she didn't, well, she was innocent, but she also dead. So, yeah, these were ridiculous. So, I think it depends on the person. Okay, let's go to the witching house. So witches, they're just people. I think that was a form of, they were afraid of these people. And it's really sad, the insecurities that they had, with these women, basically, most of them. Do you know why they call it the witching hour? Does anybody know? I'm going to tell you. And usually, yeah, isn't it though? Yeah, that was one of them. I like being pressed with stones too. Really? Put a board on you and then put the stones on you. The witching hour. Ooh, and we're coming upon that now, which is why I'm bringing it up. Yeah, good. You had to love it. Or the dunking. Remember they tied them to the board in a chair and dunked them. If they drowned, they weren't a witch. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, you would think so. Okay. The witching hour is a time of night associated with supernatural events. Ooh. Yes. And it's called when evil comes. They also call it when evil comes out to play. So they call. You would think so, Valerie. You're a weirdo. Have you ever found yourself creeped out to notice that your late night trips from the bed to the bathroom usually take place around 3 a.m.? No, they didn't come back up, Ike. No. No. And that one I know of came back up. So, yep, they were innocent. Good job, guys. So, yeah, have you ever noticed when you have to get up and go to the bathroom, it's around 3 a.m.? There's a reason why. The hour between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. is referred to No, don't even go there. Is referred to as the witching hour because it's thought the paranormal forces are at their strongest then. So that's why I run from the bathroom back to the bed. No, it's not. That's why I'm discussing it. No, it's not. Actually, it's considered, the witching hour is basically known between 12 a.m. and 1, the Inquisition. Yeah, you got to love those guys. And 3 a.m. is kind of separate almost. It's known as the devil's hour. Okay. The history behind that comes from the fact that Catholic church prayers and services are marked by different hours, which are 3 hours in length. So between 3 and 4 a.m. there were no prayers, making it prime time for evil forces. Yeah. During the era of the witch hunts, if a woman was caught outside of her house during the witching hour and didn't have a good reason for it, by God, she was sentenced to death. Crazy. Yeah. So if you had to get up and pee at her, you're done. You're done. A lot of paranormal enthusiasts consider the time between midnight and 3 a.m. to be the witching hour, since that's when a new day starts and things start to get pretty creepy at midnight, do they not? Of course they do. And 3 a.m. is kind of known as the devil's hour. 12 a.m., which creatures such as witches, demons, and ghosts are thought to appear and be at their most powerful. And black magic is thought to be the most effective at this time. It is separate from the period of time known as dead time. Dead time is 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. Yeah, it was ridiculous back then. It really was. I mean, seriously. People weren't that totally stupid back then. Well, apparently a lot of them were. But so a child was throwing tantrums, screaming, throwing things around. You feel awesome? I'm glad. You just be careful. So they were having fits if these kids, threw tantrums, threw things, screaming, peculiar noises, probably like grunting and they're throwing temper tantrums, but they thought they were being possessed by witches. So anyway, dead time, Lori, is 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. When no services or prayers are marked during that time. The term devil's hour applies to the hours of 2:30 to 3:30 a.m. The suggestion that this is an inversion of the time when Christ died. It could be used to refer to a time of bad luck or in which something bad has a greater likelihood to occur. If you have seen a lot of horror movies, of course we have, then try to remember the time in their clock when ghosts appear. You ever notice? Yeah, they do. Well, the freaks are out all the time, but they really get moving after midnight. Well, probably not. Probably not till 3 a.m. then. Well, midnight mass isn't exactly at midnight. If you think about it, it's like actually earlier than that, but they call it midnight mass. It's actually earlier than that. Like I said, if you watch a lot of horror movies, you think we do? Remember the time on the clock when the ghosts appear. And the time is always between 12 and 3 a.m., of course. It's, as you read above, it gives bad luck. Those are bad hours. So, that's when the ghosts are abound. I mean, do you ever notice, like, if you have to go to the bathroom between those times, I mean, you run from the bathroom to the bedroom? Seriously. Plus, then, if you can't go back to sleep, maybe somebody's watching you. So, excuse me. So, if you remember, midnight mass isn't at midnight. So, as with the occult, that time when witches and demons are at their most powerful. So, if your baby might cry every night at the same time, or when the stock market is volatile, is some kind. It's called the witching hour. So anytime between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. So New Zealand sees the hapless heroes after double observed daylight savings time. But where did it get its name? It was believed, yeah, of course. Actually, in the Amityville Horror, Butch DeFeo, he was of Amityville Horror fame, murdered his family at 3:15 a.m. Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, they have midnight mass, but it's not at midnight. They have it, it's like at 10:30, but they still call it midnight mass. So, yeah, but they're not at midnight, Valerie. Trust me. Yeah, they're not at midnight. They call it midnight mass, but it's not. But note the fact that Butch DeFeo of Amityville Horror fame murdered his family at 3:15 a.m. So there you go. It's because they believe this because witches were more active at midnight to 3 a.m. And this theory, the forces of darkness are more active. And it makes a more powerful time to do magic. Oh, baloney. If you were accused of witchcraft, what time are you going to do it if you're accused of witches? Of course, some of these people would do their activities under the cover of darkness. My mom went, Valerie, so I know, because they used to go to midnight mass at Christmas. I did when I was a kid too, but it's not at midnight. So those given the persecution of those labeled as witches, you can't be surprised that they're going to conduct their activities, that time of night when everybody is sleeping. But it's simply to work without interruptions, not because they have more power or whatever. It's the fact they could work without being disturbed. That's all. But if you were mixing up a love potion for a client, would you want everybody to look and be gawking at you? No. So many people could have been up about 3 a.m. during, and earlier times you were up earlier, okay? Going to bed, and they went to bed as soon as it got dark, and they were up before the sun came up. So if you think about it, the hours were different too back then. And of course you have your ghost stories too. A lot of people believe that ghosts are more active because the veil between the worlds is thinner. What do you think? Yes or no? You think the veil is thinner between the worlds? And they say apparently mediums are more active during the witching hour because the ghosts are. Okay. Well, okay. We can do that for you. We talked about that last week, about the rabbit's foot. Poor rabbit. Perhaps the theory might have have more credence if psychics held their seance stages shows at 3 a.m. instead of 8 p.m. I always thought you should have your seances at midnight. I was always told that, not at 8 p.m. It's possible ghosts are more active because people are more startled when they come out of a sleep and they're scared. Okay, so does the witching hour actually exist? Could be. I think that there's more activity, I think, between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. even. Oh, yeah, definitely. I've done that. Or wherever the supposedly haunted place is. Oh, I used to have, I did a lot of them, actually. And the witching hour, the folklore is, there's not much on it. Of course, it relates to the activities of witches, demons, and ghosts. Ooh. But here's where it gets really interesting.